BooBaes. BooBaes. Hi. Howdy.
Hey, howdy, hey. How are
Hello.
you today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm here. I'm
There we go.
very tired. I got stabbed twice yesterday.
Stabbed?
Yeah, with a tattoo gun.
Oh, that's right.
So,
We didn't even get a chance to look at that.
yeah, this
Okay.
one's all
It's wrapped
gunky.
up?
And this one, they're both wrapped up.
Mhm.
So,
Oh, okay. So never mind. I won't be
yeah.
taking a look at
the
that.
only picture I have of this one is very, it's a goo photo. Like, you can't really tell. It's a little cowgirl mushroom.
That's cute.
Cute, huh?
She's cute. Wait, hold up though. Let me look at these because
Oh, I also got my nails
I just
done.
noticed that. Yeah, they are super cool.
Thank you.
I like the rectangle in the middle.
Yeah,
That's different.
yeah. I am a fan as well. I think they're some of my favorite nails I've had.
Pretty.
Anyways,
Hi. Welcome to
nail ASMR. BooBaes.
BooBaes. I'm your boo, and this is your bae over here.
Yeah.
I'm Joshua.
And I am Caitlin. And we are your hosts. If you haven't gathered that yet, we're
to
here
talk about some scary movies.
exactly scary
Mm.
movies. Today's movie, as you know, we are doing a month of Shudder, and this one is a Shudder original.
It is.
So pretty cool.
Go check it out.
And it is one that I enjoy because I think I first downloaded Shudder in about 2020 was finally when enough
pandemic?
podcast ads
Mhm.
had gotten to me that I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'd also gone through like all of Netflix's horror catalog
Gotcha.
and was bored,
Yeah.
and so I was like, I need more. So I got Shudder and was pleased. But this was one that they kept like having right at the front because it came out in 2019. So they were
So it
still
was
kind
still
of
fresh.
pushing
They were
it.
pushing it. They were promoting it.
Yeah. And so it just kept showing up. And so I was like, you know what? I'll watch it. So I did. And
Yeah.
then I was like, oh,
I'd seen it
that's actually
before,
pretty
but
good.
I've never had watched it. I never
Oh, okay,
really-
yeah.
Like
You've
I
seen
mean,
the
like
title.
I seen the title. Yeah, I
I
came
was like,
across
what do you
it.
mean?
I've seen it, but I never watched
I've
it.
seen it. That's some
very
like
cryptic
we're getting
horror
like
movie.
dun 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 into.
No, but yeah,
I keep wanting to say metaphysical. It's not.
I can't believe I didn't watch it. It was yeah,
metaphorical.
we'll get into it, but it was a movie. It was I mean I liked it.
Yeah.
There we go. I guess you'll find out where my boo rating is leaning towards. But
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty good.
I liked it as well. That's why this one was my choice.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
I am. I mean,
If you hate it, it's all Caitlin's fault.
yes. Trash recommendation. No, I do think it's pretty good. A lot of like, I mean, I think we've talked about it on here before when we talked about like Ringu and stuff.
Mhm.
J horror is on another level. Any of the like Eastern kind of countries, like,
Yeah.
and then
Their take on horror.
yeah, and I don't know. I feel like America is kind of lame. Like those Indonesian horror films I've seen, fucking amazing. And then French horror is actually really good.
I haven't seen any of those.
Oh
guess I
yeah.
need
Did
to
you
up
ever
my
watch Mary Ann
international-
on
my-
Netflix?
No, Mary Ann. What's
yeah.
that?
Oh, it's a
Okay,
series.
don't
It's
ruin
like a
it.
limited series,
Oh,
or
okay.
not a limited series, but it's a series
Mm-hmm.
and
In 3 words, what is Mary Ann?
disturbing.
Mm.
There's a scene in there that made me go like, oh, okay, that was kind of fucking creepy. Okay.
I think that was like 27 words, but it counts.
Yes.
Disturbing. that's
Disturbing
all
was
you
the
needed to
main.
say.
Yeah.
The theme. That's cool. No, I'll have to check it out. This one, yeah, like I said, I hadn't heard of it, and like you're saying, J horror
And
is just like
Korean horror doesn't. I mean, it's not
It's
far
Korean
off as well.
or is it?
Yes, this one is a Korean film.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kids are in, I believe, Seoul, and then
Mhm.
they're driving into like more rural. I hate that
Areas.
word. Korea.
Rural?
Rural. It's so hard to say.
Rural.
Rural.
Yeah, I feel that. I
Rar,
can't say
rar.
I can't say the word world sometimes.
World.
Yeah, see, you say it better. It kind of gets lost in my like
It's
the
like,
throat to tongue movement. I don't know what it is.
Mm.
It's the W to the R
Okay.
to
Yeah.
the OLD. It's just hard. All of
That
it.
could be a song. I listen to
The
it.
W to the R to the O. Did I even
It's
spell
like
it right?
teaching
Yes.
kids about Mother Earth.
Oh, that would be cute.
Look at that.
There's this
Let's
person
be a
on TikTok
children's-
who is like a globe. Have you seen it?
No, that
She's dressed up
sounds
in a globe and
weird.
is like dances.
Oh, and she teaches you about-
She dances to like like newer. Which yes, all yes. She does dance as well.
Okay, but
Yeah.
she teaches
But it's not
me.
for like little kids. It's
Oh.
just like to teach. I mean, yeah, because it's supposed to
If
be about
she
like
could
the
teach me
earth, but-
geography that way, I
Mm.
would be sad because I don't know jack shit about geography. I need to know where the countries are in
Mhm.
relation
She could
to
just
my
be
body.
pointing. As you can see, she could just be like pointing at them.
Yeah, and then give me a fun way to remember it.
And a rap song.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Anyways, this
K
film,
horror.
as we said, 2019. It's actually based on a Korean webcomic that
Mhm.
we found out thanks to our lovely, I almost said handy dandy notebook.
That'd be a great. To Rusty.
Handy dandy social media and just researcher, Rusty. Yes.
Mhm.
So that's, I mean, awesome. I want to read it. I do enjoy reading a lot of
Mm-hmm.
Korean web comics. For those of you who don't know, like
She does.
I watch a fuck ton of
I
anime,
can
which is Japanese. I know.
vouch for that.
But then I also do read quite a few Korean web comics, but most of mine are more boy loves because I love my gay shit.
Mm-hmm.
But would be down to read some ghosty ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Not
for sure.
above that. And I love how everything's illustrated. So fun.
Please
I
read
just
it
like
for me.
illustrations. I will.
Please read it for me.
And I'll let
Give
you
me
know.
a detailed
And I'll come back and tell you all. I wanted to do it this week. Just did not have time.
time.
There's never enough time.
It's eluding us, evading us,
Yeah, I think
Invading? eluding.
elating.
All of it. All of the above.
It is not.
So,
This does not elate me.
More about 0.0 megahertz is that it came out 2019. We said
Mhm.
that, and yeah,
Shudder original, and I actually will be honest, I don't know the director because, well, my brain has stopped working for today. It said you've
Oh,
done
the
enough.
director. Yeah, I could tell you, but I'll let you pronounce it because you're better at that, and I don't.
Yeah, it'd be Sun Dong Yu.
Okay,
Mhm.
because preface, I do not want to butcher anybody's name, so if I do, my
And
apologies in advance.
I, as well,
Yeah.
I'm like
Although you are way better at it than I am, so I doubt
I
you
am-
would. But
learning Korean currently, trying to get a little more into their culture and know
Mhm.
a little bit more about it.
yeah,
Just
culture
because I
appreciation.
take part and enjoy so many aspects of their culture, like I'm
Yeah,
I'm a little K-pop stan,
you
like
are.
so.
You do.
I very much partake, and I want to be able to communicate, and then also with people who are dear to me. I want to be able to communicate with them
Mhm.
and their families. So
That's
why I'm
cute.
doing it. Yeah,
I approve.
but
So
yes, that
shall we get into the
doesn't
movie?
mean that I'm going to be good at pronouncing every name, though. So I
yeah,
also
I'm sorry.
apologize.
I didn't mean to hype you up like that.
A lot of the names as well. My closed captioning, I just went off of my spelling from the closed captioning,
Mm-hmm.
but then I was listening to some of them, and they're not quite how they would pronounce it. Like I said, Sohee, Sohee is our main character,
Mm-hmm.
and the way they said it a lot of the time sounded more like Sohee or like almost like a Heyu, Hugh, like so who like kind of thing.
Okay,
But I'm gonna go with Sohee because
that's what I
that's
got from it.
what I got from it. And then, as you had mentioned earlier as well, you were like, some of the words didn't match at all because a lot of the time, so in Korea, the hierarchy of age is such a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of the times we had our two younger characters were Sohee and what was his name? Oh,
I
poop.
have it right here. It's Hansu.
Oh, yes, he's the Han Sok.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hansu.
I did. They don't introduce the names until we
Until, like,
actually get to the house.
Yeah, in the middle of it, I didn't
Yeah.
know who people were, so I
Nope.
was like, "Oh, main girl 1, main
Yeah.
girl 2." That's why.
Because I was sitting there
there.
trying to like pick up on it, and then no, it was like in the middle of my notes is where I start getting some of the names.
Mm-hmm.
And then Oh, is he Han Sok? No. We'll get to it. But anyways, they would refer to the older members in this club as, if it was the guy to one of the older guys, they would say Hyung, which means essentially older brother, but it does not have to be an older brother. So you call your actual older brother that, but then anyone who you
are close with and they're older than you.
Yes, and you respect them and stuff, you would call them that. Like if it was an academic setting and stuff, you would call them like Sunbae. And so there's just different titles. And then as our main girl would say to like
There's so much that I don't know.
Yoonjung, she would call her Ani, which is in the same kind of respects, like big sister kind of thing. And so it's just a formality that was often put onto the end of their name. And so that's why it also sounded so wildly different, because they're not going to put like brother Taesu, you know.
Yeah, they're not going to explain that.
Yeah, exactly. So because I mean it is a Korean film.
Yeah. Which you do have to, if you watch this movie, you have to pay attention to the subtitles to get like, you know, what's happening in the text of the movie.
And a lot of the times too, they'll, instead of like using like you, the word, like, or a word for you, it would just be like their name or Hyung. And so I might be butchering that as well. I've only ever read it in my webcomics. I'm the worst.
You're not.
Anyways, and it was so fast in any of these. But basically, let's get into the film.
Okay. So it's basically, it really jumps in because you're opening with like this ritual kind of thing that's happening where they have a shaman
and you see the woods covered in talismans and everything, like clearly
something's going down. And so you have them all kind of chanting, playing this song, and they're channeling all their energy looking to the house. And then she finally, right before that the door opens, right? And then we're like,
she
oh
stops.
shit, because she sees there's some like kind of image that you can't really make out unless you're like zooming
really
in.
looking,
but there's something
she
there.
clearly sees something that maybe not everyone else is seeing.
She's in
because
tune
she is
with the spirits,
the shaman. And
she's a witch doctor.
I loved how chaotic that scene was. It felt very just like the flashing and the harsh cuts from instruments to the dancing feet into like the little almost maraca of sorts in her hand and stuff. I really enjoyed that scene.
I'm sure it's part of the process, the whatever it is.
Yeah, some sort of cleansing. I don't know the exact details, but
it literally looks like one of those little things that has like little beads on both sides, and you're like, you know,
some sort of like a musical instrument, but definitely this probably had a little more intention.
And at that point, you're really thinking like, lady, you probably shouldn't go in there, but she does. Exactly
anytime a door opens on its own,
we gotta go in there.
But that's like she's the exorcist, basically.
Yeah,
having to go.
She has no choice.
Perform
that's quite literally what she's there for. But still,
I mean, you could tell she had a very intense fear on her face.
Well, because then people stopped chanting, right? But then she
was like, keep playing.
Keep doing it.
And then, of course, the moment she went inside and the door slammed shut, they all stopped.
Yeah.
And I was like, motherfucker, she said, keep playing.
And
this is your fault.
Exactly.
Your fault she did.
Moments later, they just all hear like a guttural scream from her. And then it's the way that I was just like, you know what? At that point, you know, her chances are probably slim. Just lock the door and burn it. Set it on fire.
Put the house down.
Literally. Because at that, there's nothing you can do. But we have them opening the door, of course. And we have this really great scene that just like zooms in really fast.
I do enjoy the use of like zooming in or zooming out. It feels often a lot to me, almost like in Lord of the Rings, whenever like the ring wraiths would come, basically it would feel like the shot would pan way down onto like the little trail that they were on. And that was kind of like how you knew they were coming. To
give you like this perspective as well.
Yeah. And so I felt like it did that a lot, where it was like we were really close up on their face and then it would like pull back.
And you could see everything.
Or vice versa, where it would just be like the camera all of a sudden is like rushing up.
I think it added to the like this drama and the suspense of like.
There were some times where it was a little comical.
Heightening the fear.
But I did like this one.
Because it almost seemed like very like whenever like I can see it in my head, but it'll come to me on how to explain it later. But anyways, yes, we have them looking, and she's pretty fucked up.
Yeah, she is.
Wasn't her like one of her legs like
it was
flipped
like
backwards, like
broken?
She was.
Yeah, and was she stuck to the ceiling?
She was stuck to the ceiling.
Okay, that's what I was like. I feel like that's
the way
what
they
it was.
looked up. Yeah, I'm like the lady dead on the ceiling.
She did up there,
literally.
And yeah, her leg was one leg was. It was, you know, when a knee shouldn't bend. that direction. It was going that
it's
way.
Like when people, it's like when like outline people with the chalk and the legs, like
yeah. It was
brutal,
cracked. It was not a very like. Clearly, something supernatural happened because you don't get stuck to the ceiling just like on your own
for fun, for shits and giggles.
And then you definitely don't like that. Seems more indicative of like I fall down, not I fall up. So it's like this thing was probably just like fucking
like
with her,
flinging her like a rag doll, because
until
literally a little doll comes later into the situation,
and that thing was pretty creepy.
The doll was the creepiest part to me, especially later when she's looking at the footage and it's just like shaking.
It's like, oh shit, yeah,
literally. And then we finally get like a little title card after that of like what the movie is.
The intense intro. The name is what I put.
Black screen.
It was like
0.0
megahertz.
Literally.
Yeah,
just exactly like that.
Wow, in your face.
And then it goes quickly to this little cafe scene where like the music in the background is all like
happy,
light energy, like very happy-go-lucky sounding. And we have our main character,
our two main characters,
Sohee, at the little counter, and she's looking over at someone sitting at the table because her coworker is like, "Hey, is that your boyfriend?" Because
Song-yeon.
Yeah, Song-yeon.
I definitely put like Song. I think Song-yeon. But it's a B according to the interweb.
I saw that too.
Song-yeon. Yup.
He's staring at her.
Yes, he is. He was being so cute, hiding behind his little laptop.
Like a little kid who has a crush, basically.
It's precious.
Yeah, and so then she kind of goes, she's the one, no, this cuts to them walking, right after that.
Well, first, I think we should note here that after she gets done, like, talking to, because her coworker comes up and is like, is that your boyfriend? And she's like, no, like, it's just a friend or something. Yeah. And then after she gets done talking to him, she looks back to the front of the counter, and there's a little boy standing there in a white shirt with a green, like, what is that called? Like that little ring. Oh.
What?
You know, when it's got like the little stripe on the end and then around the collar and stuff.
A crew? I don't know.
That's a specific kind of shirt, but I'm totally blanking.
Me and fashion.
Anyways, he had a little shirt on, and we don't know who this character is yet, but
we will later and eventually.
And in that moment,
that's why I didn't even put it together until way later, and I was like,
when
oh wait,
he comes back
that was the boy.
I just remember the first time I watched it thinking, okay, what the fuck is that little kid's problem?
Yeah, I thought because she was so
like,
focused looking at him that there was like a customer that needed help, but then he was smiling at her really weirdly.
And so, we'll find out who that character is later. But I just think that that's an important thing to right there. But yes, they do cut to walking, and they're having a discussion about like what he was doing there. Clearly, he knew that she worked there.
Yeah, because he's like, oh, I didn't know you worked there. And she's like, I could have swore I told you.
Literally told you.
Yeah. And so then it looks even worse because either he did and now he's trying to not look like he did, or he's just a bad listener. But anyways, he tells her he was writing a horror novel.
Yeah, which is exciting.
Yeah, really. For a BooBaes enthusiast. And so he was writing this book, I guess, and she's like asking him about it and stuff. And it's the way he kind of goes off on saying that like he's tried writing multiple ones, but he never finishes them because she's like, why? And he's like, they all suck.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, that's such a like artistic person's like everything you do is like, you're like, man, you shit on it.
Other people probably look at it and they're like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah. But anyways, we have that whole situation, and then they're essentially, he says, do you mind that if we go together or something like that, but you don't really know what like he's kind of talking about
exactly
until they get to this next scene where we have a meeting for the club called 0.0 megahertz basically,
and that's how it comes in. And we basically find out that is that is basically the frequency at which you can like call or talk to ghost. And so whenever it's a form of like when you're in REM sleep and stuff.
What I got at this point, because the REM sleep part comes a little later, basically essentially is like when a person's soul can communicate with a ghost. Is at 0.0 megahertz. And then we find out later that people reach that state when they are in their REM sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So sleeping gets involved later on in the movie, which I was like, oh, okay, I wasn't even thinking they would go in that route. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So because it's also for like someone who's like,
Oh,
because
yeah,
they mentioned
sorry, I
like
forget.
sleep paralysis and all that other shit,
Uh-huh.
and so I was like,
Which
oh yeah,
it makes sense that that is when, I mean, just take our dreams,
Yeah.
for example. They're so fucking wild and off
you could see some
base.
scary stuff.
Yeah, and that's more
So it
when
makes
we are
sense.
like actually subjected to our subconscious and stuff.
Yeah.
And so it would make sense that that is when the like veil between the two realms is like
Thin.
the thinnest, and when you are most susceptible to encountering, especially when you're in that half waking state. And then that's why everyone loves to write it off about like it being there, but I mean,
because it's easier to write it off than to actually think that something
was there.
was actually there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we have them talking about that. They're showing our main people about the house, right? The abandoned house.
Mhm.
We get
Yeah.
that video of
We
like
have three older members, and they're basically giving them like a preview of
what's happening, because they're
gonna
new
do.
members. We
Yes.
should mention that both of them just joined the club, and these other three members have been there for a while, I'm assuming.
Yeah. And we already kind of know that Sohee's a little bit weird because she was like, I joined it for fun.
Yeah.
And which is like,
And-
me too.
Yeah.
But
But like you pick up vibes from her
yeah.
very quickly from the actress, because later on you find out why she's not like other girls. She's not like regular girls. She's way different. And so, but I feel like those subtle things, nuances that she did in the beginning, now as like we're talking about it, and when I would think to rewatch it, I'm like, oh yeah, duh, why didn't I see that the whole time? But anyways, yeah, they're getting
Yeah, she did a great job.
Yeah, they're getting to learn about this abandoned house, which is the house we saw in the beginning of the film, and that it had been abandoned 4 years, or a woman had hung herself 4 years prior.
Yes.
And it looks decrepit now by this point, since it's been abandoned. And he's also talking about how some film students went the past year and saw some creepy shit, and they ended up being able to like draw a picture of a ghost from recollection of their memories, and it was basically like this creepy
It reminded me of
ghost.
like a almost like those like viral online things, like the yes one or whatever.
Or even like the smiley thing of that girl.
Smiley. That's what it was.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
creepy.
That's it. Kind of gave me that vibes. It should be noted that the woman hung herself there, and she wasn't found until after her body had decayed
For
so
days.
badly that, like, I mean, this had to be weeks because her head separated from her body.
It was got mushy and
It
just fell
got
apart.
so mushy, that the weight of her body stayed down, and then her head was found like
that's the
still
effect of gravity.
in the neck or in the noose, and so disgusting. But that is kind of a big part because a lot of the times the doll later on is
that's right.
it separated. But yes, and so we've got our they refer to her as like the hair ghost.
Yeah, the hair ghost.
Because she's got a fuck ton of hair.
And the picture is not the best of pictures, might I add. It's very a little kiddish, a little childish.
It's very it's
what
clearly
you would expect a kid to draw.
Exactly.
But I mean, also,
very
who's
elementary.
to say they're not like in total shock or like craziness after that experience, and that's all they could draw. Basically,
you know, like when what's his face in the ring?
Yeah,
is
with
it
the crown, Aiden with the black crown, just
just scribbling. It was like that, but with hair and a little face.
Yeah,
in between. I kind of liked it. I was like, it's believable.
We'll get to the ghost later on, though. I mean, because honestly, if
the face isn't the best, no.
But you know, not the worst. I'll give it that.
Yeah.
Anyways, it so gave me the whole point. But anyways, we have them talking about this, and then mentioning that's when the whole 0 megahertz thing, and like why the club is named that, because then whatever the leader of the club basically is just like, wait, did nobody tell them what that even means?
Yeah.
What that even what the name of the club even means, stands
for? Because Sangyeob is like, what the fuck? You can clearly see it all over his face. He's like, excuse me, bitch.
For real.
And then that's when Taesu's like, are you fucking kidding me? You didn't tell them like what this is about? And then
so that's how we get our little. It's a really kind of cool and easy way for them to like give us as the audience the explanation of what it is
exactly
as well,
of what's going on. Give us a good backstory.
It's a good segue.
other than what we just saw. Like, I mean, with the beginning and stuff, like clearly we know that some shit went down at that house, but that was a nice way for us to get the actual
explanation for that, and then like what is to come as well, and what we're gonna see within the next hour of the movie.
Yeah,
basically by this point
they're basically giving you the rundown. But so then they pack up and they start heading out towards this house. And this is where we kind of also can tell because they're in the car. And so at this point I said blonde girl, who is Yoon Jung, is in. I was like, okay, she's clearly dating the main like head honcho leader of the group, which is, as we find out later, Tae-soo. But we find out because they're like canoodling in the car. But then they make a stop at a convenience store.
Is he the leader of the group?
I feel like he seems to know. I feel like he's the one in charge. And then Han Seok, the loud one, douchebag one, is kind of like also. But I feel like knows, he's like suggested the necromancy, but Tae-soo seemed to be very much more so in charge than him. So that was what I got anyways.
Okay.
Because I feel like Han Seok probably couldn't actually lead anything.
Probably, but I also feel like he was driving the narrative of it a lot because of, in the end, we find out his motives were more like to capture,
to get money,
some type of anomaly that would make him money.
Well, I think that's probably why he suggested the necromancy.
Yeah.
Because Tae-soo comes in later and is like, I think Tae-soo was more just trying to find out like actual REM sleep and like study that. And then he came in and was like, we should do necromancy, which was like, fuck. But would like guarantee him a better reaction with the film. Or I guess you would think it would guarantee you that.
He was trying to create shock value, like footage. But we have them going to the house and they're in the van, and it's kind of reminiscent to me anyways. I don't know if it was intentional or not, of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because they're in the van. We have the couple that's all canoodling and being a little slutty, and then we have everyone else, and then we have them pulling up to like what would be like a little convenient gas station store with someone heeding a warning of like, you don't go here. Yeah. And then they go there, and it's like in a field, and it's like,
right.
Yeah.
It is very much the same. Oh like yeah, that. Definitely. And as they get to that convenience store, so he sees a girl walking into the store in a school uniform. That's but when it pans down on her, you see that her leg is like
bloodied,
covered in blood. Yeah. And she just walks in, and no one else seems to be, well, we don't really know that maybe she was a ghost. You can tell something's clearly wrong with her.
Because the screen, the shot changes immediately to the other people in the convenience store.
So for all we know, she could just be shopping around in there and just be behind another shelf. And so, and then we find out that the convenience store clerk was at the cleansing. He was one of the guys who like went up to the door first and found the shaman as she was. And so that's why he was so adamant and like passionate about, no, we don't fucking go there. Yeah. Because like I've seen
he's like
exactly what it can do.
And then he's at like they're buying beer and stuff like that, and he's just like, this disrespect to the dead. Like, if you think you're gonna go there and like have some beers and laugh, and
he kept calling him like city kids, basically. Like you can't just like drive into our town and go hang out here for fun.
Obviously, it's still a soft spot, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it had only been like what, 4 years?
4 years since she hung herself. So then whatever took place after that with the whole shaman could have been,
had to have been pretty
3
recently.
or 2, Yeah, we don't know. And so we have all that happening within the store, and finally they leave the store, and it's the way that Sohee, whenever she's looking from behind the rear view window, then sees the man like walk or not. Just standing there.
He walks out into the street.
And he's standing there watching them leave, and she also sees the girl next to him.
Just standing there.
Yeah.
Right behind him.
So obviously, I mean, to me, I was like, yep, that's a ghost. It's like nobody else
at that
is
point,
like, I'm like, that's got to be a ghost.
No one else is reacting to her. Exactly.
And only she can see her. Yeah.
So that's how we didn't realize yet, but we've already encountered another ghost with her as well. So
2.
This is now the second one. Yeah. And so it's very like, it's very telling. And this is kind of the first like actual, for sure, she can see some shit.
Yeah. In my notes, I'm like, store owner is giving them the tea. And so
He was.
yeah, and so we have them getting to the place where they're supposed to go do all this shit, and it's the way that he's like young
Hansok.
Hansok
Siok.
is
I'm not
telling
sure.
them that they have to walk, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another like 5 minutes into the woods or wherever their location is. And I'm like, anytime you have to walk to some place that's an extra time or whatever, and don't go.
No good.
It's
Yeah,
not a
they had to
good
kind of hike
indication.
into the place. It was a house that was nestled away a little bit from
I'm
the
like,
side
if
of the road.
paramedics and emergency people, first responders can't get there in a timely fashion, then you shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
No
need for them. And then this is where we do actually start getting people's names, and we actually start kind of figuring out who is who. And so yeah, all my notes here are just like, so he is main girl, Han Silk is maybe the loud one. I put Yoon Jung as a blonde girl for sure. And then clearly Sohee is sensitive to this stuff, because the moment we get to the house, Sohee is not feeling well.
No, she's visibly like physically sick.
Yeah, she looks very ill.
Yeah.
And not pleased at all to be there. Because there's an incredibly evil presence there, and
she can sense it.
She feels it. Feels very threatened.
Yeah.
But then as they're kind of exploring, Yoon Jung finds the weird hole in the furnace, because she like picks up the lid and she's like, what's going to be in there? Like blood or bones?
I like that part because it was building up the suspense, and I'm just like, oh, and it also too is like good to see like a character be genuinely like her character, the actress gave to me genuinely like I would be doing that.
What is going to be in there?
Because I would be like you still have to do it, but I'd be like shit. I don't know the whole time doing it, you know. And so I felt
because
like
what
it
if
was
the directors
believable.
are gonna like? What if they didn't tell them anything and they were just basically like, have fun?
Yeah,
you'll see when the house reacts. Kind of Blair Witch.
Yeah,
I don't know. If that's
and I would just act like that in real life. I mean, like I would be like freaked out. I'd be like, "Oop, I don't know." And so and she finds that little hole in the bottom or in the back of the pit, the fire pit, right? That really
I refer to it as furnace. I don't know if that's off.
Sure.
I don't know.
If that might be what it is too.
Legit though.
She finds that, and it's the way that's going to definitely come into play a lot more into the rest of the movie. And so we have them all exploring a little even more. Right now, this is like, for me, there were times, and I write it right here, that like the music in the background was like, I didn't
a little
really,
distracting.
just
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree. There were times.
The music is, I feel like it does not necessarily, because it's maybe not even that. It's just like what they were playing. I'm like, this doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Like, what's going on? Yeah.
We would have rathered it be almost silent
or ambient or like something to give it more eeriness, but it's like not. It's like
it was very rhythmic.
Yeah.
A lot of it was. And yes, it did almost have like a little house.
That's what I meant. Yeah. Like I was like at a little EDM kind of concert. And I'm like, it took me out of the element, I would say.
There were some parts where it did add, I think, but then I think I have a comment about the soundtrack in here as well, where I was like,
and I'm like, for a movie about like I feel like it should be more like brooding, I guess, and that ambient, like that silent kind of, let it, the silent speaks for itself kind of thing.
Exactly.
And it just kind of ruined those moments. But anyways, beyond that.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree.
It's my only qualm.
And so they're exploring. Han Seok finds he opens that big old vat of like that shit.
That's
and
right.
He's like, is this soy sauce? And he was smelling it, and then all of a sudden something floats to the top.
I wrote that same thing too. I was like, what was in the soy sauce? It looked like a head of like a pig or something.
It did,
maybe.
yeah.
But it happened so fast, and they don't really revisit it, that we don't know what it was.
And then I was like, is that where they were keeping the cow liver like that they needed for the necromancy? But then he would have known.
No, I don't think so. That was already there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he called it like 100-year-old soy sauce, right? Yeah.
Like, what is this?
Oh, now I'm hungry.
Yeah, I know, right? But so they're exploring. So he then she kind of wanders off from the house itself, and she ends up in the surrounding forest. And she finds the talismans that we found at the beginning that are basically there to bless the house.
Yeah.
And ward off evil spirits. Yeah.
Spirits.
And she then has a very visceral reaction.
She does.
It's
like looking like she has vertigo basically, and she's kind of like woozing all over.
And we're
kind
of getting that with the camera work too, which was fun.
And then we have her getting confronted by which I believe is her grandma.
I believe it is her grandmother who
is trying to warn her.
At this point, I put she's a fucking medium.
Yeah,
because or a shaman, like she's susceptible to this stuff. She can see it. She has a connection.
She literally sees dead people.
Yeah. Sixth sense. She much sees it. But yes, we find out later that this lady is her grandmother and is essentially warning her. But at this point, I just put meets a weird old lady.
I literally, that's what I put. I'm like, there's lots of red flags literally everywhere.
Literally there.
Everywhere. I'm like, oh, old lady, question mark. Yeah. So that was a little random at that moment. She
grips either side of her face too or something. It feels very and
it's very, for in that moment, it's very random. But I think we find out later that was her grandmother. And so, yes.
And so this whole time she's had very personal warnings to get away from this place.
Yes.
Basically saying, no, get the fuck out of here.
They're
it's
really
bad news.
telling her like, you're in an evil place and you need to be more careful about where you're at. If not, get out. And so we have it going back to the, I keep on wanting to call them kids, but like to the people.
I mean, they're college kids.
The kids, back at the house, and they're all kind of talking. They're prepping,
making dinner.
Prepping some food. And so he is visibly like just sitting on the porch, like not feeling well at all.
Yeah, nauseated. She's not wanting to eat.
And they can tell, and they're just like, oh, and I love how Yoon
Jung is like, I feel bad that we're eating.
And so then the douchebag is like, well, then I'll have your food. But anyways, we have them all talking, and that's whenever I think this is
where the REM sleep comes in.
The REM sleep, and then I remember one of them said something about like, we need to get drunk because the ghost will come if we're buzzed or something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yes, and so they start talking about the REM sleep and how sleep paralysis and like it's like the 0.0 megahertz. That's how it all like you reach it in that moment of sleep paralysis. Sorry,
they're like
sleep.
Measuring your brain waves.
Yeah, there we go.
And then they wanted to see how the variable of being in a known haunted house or a known haunted location would affect it. Yes, and then this is where we also get the mention of the necromancy, that maybe they're not just doing your standard everyday kind of brainwave testing, but that they are tampering with the spiritual realm.
Yeah.
By doing.
And so that's when you really get a feeling of like, no, that's going to turn out bad. Because it's like whenever you see people playing with a Ouija board in a horror movie, it's like, no, there's no way that this is going to end up well.
This is a bad sign.
Unlocking all the bad juju.
And especially whenever like those things can be utilized correctly, but when you are using them without being educated, like Ouija boards all the time.
Yeah.
You have to close out of them in order to not leave you've literally opened a sort of portal. And I mean, I growing up didn't know that. I didn't know for the longest time. I played Ouija boards all the fucking time. Yes. Just boop, 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 going around. And I probably invited like 8 billion spirits into my life.
Oh,
that's why I'm haunted as fuck. I don't know. That. But so, I mean, I feel like they're very much into something they don't really understand.
Yeah.
Which is a recipe for disaster, as we find out. For the necromancy, we find out that they need. I made a big old list. That's when we start
getting all those list of ingredients that we need for this ritual of contacting the ghost with the necromancy.
We see them setting up and stuff for it, and they're kind of giving us there's almost like a narration.
I don't write them all down because it's kind of like, did you write them? Tell me.
I went back and rewound because I was like, I feel like we're gonna need this. So basically, they needed 2 identical dolls, a long needle, what was used in the killing, in this case, aka a rope or noose, coarse salt, and the fresh liver of a cow. And then, so the order of operations basically is 1, you need to put the liver in a tub or pot of water.
Yeah.
Basically, submerge it, and then you need to 2, hang the doll where the body was found. The doll is bait, basically. And so I guess if this was not a hanging situation, you would put the doll like where the body was found.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't have to hang it. But for our instances, we are hanging the doll. For 3, the spirit receiving doll, is then cut open, and then fingernails of the test subject are placed inside and then sewn back up. So they're clipping. We find out that Yoonjung is our person who is going to be.
She has a beautiful brain.
The test subject. Yes, I did love that line. And so they're clipping her fingernails and then like stuffing it inside this doll and then sewing it back up. And then you place that doll into the tub with. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. After you sew it back up, you need to take that needle, place it through the chest of the receiving doll, and they poke it all the way through.
Yeah.
And then place it into the tub with the cow liver.
The way you're ready to do this ritual, Caitlin.
I know, I'm ready.
Literally step by step.
We'll open Ren and Stimpy behind us.
Literally.
And we'll make a receiving doll in here.
It sounds like a kitchen recipe. That's hilarious.
And then you pour 2 shots of vodka.
Heavy pour, literally. Yeah, so we have this rundown of all the ingredients, and then finally it's like they get to say that the radio, right, will make a noise if there's a ghost presence happening.
To detect the frequency changes.
And so...
Which is a very common form.
Yeah, what people use, like
their
EVP
spirit boxes,
and all that.
everything like that, yeah.
And so we have them then chanting in their language, native, right? May the dead come here and sit.
Yes, yeah. They're chanting in Korean, may the dead come here and sit. And they encircle the test subject in a ring of salt, basically to ensure that the ghost can't get out of it, which is a very, again, common place. Like, I mean, if you watched one episode of Supernatural, you're like, let me get my Morton rock salt.
But it's from SpongeBob SquarePants.
Yeah.
To protect you from the sea bear. You got to put a ring of salt around you.
See, everything. Salt protects you. That's why I eat so much goddamn salt.
Yeah. I don't even think it was salt. It was like a ring of rocks or something like that. I don't remember exactly.
But it's spooky
it's the
SpongeBob
same premise.
Today.
Yeah.
Salt today.
Just a day or two ago, I saw someone post that SpongeBob, it was its birthday. Is them, however SpongeBob identifies.
A sponge?
From like 1999. So that makes him like 21. I don't know.
Wow,
21.
SpongeBob is a
23.
young adult.
I don't know how old. Oh gosh.
99 would make him 23.
23.
Yeah.
There you go. I was going the opposite direction.
My brother's 98 and he just turned 24.
Wow.
So
these children.
I know. Wild.
And so anyways, we have all of that going
I actually
on.
did
We
write
have
song. Oh no, I put a P instead
on
of B.
For what?
For Songyup.
Oh, okay.
But I think a lot of P's and B's are interchangeable. Not interchangeable, but they're depending on where they are in the word for a Korean like character changes their pronunciation. So
I made you a bear trap for your finger. And so we have them chanting, may the dead come here and sit. And then
casual.
Finally, we have this moment where Yoon starts faking like being possessed, and it's actually pretty believable.
I know.
Because I'm pretty she went there, and the way she was moving her body.
I couldn't remember this time watching it if it was fake or not.
But I was already saying like the bitch is faking it.
Yeah.
And then we find out the bitch was faking it, which means I put she will probably die first, but not necessarily. No. But honestly,
but also
yes. But like kind of in a way. I think her fate is actually a lot worse because she has to deal with the fact that she killed you. Anyways, so we have all of that happening, and then finally she's like, I fooled you, haha. And they're like, you rascal, you. And so then we have basically so he is still feeling pretty shitty, right?
Yeah, so she has gone to lay down basically, and
the boys are out there watching the film.
Like, hey, Sungyeop, why don't you go lay down and why don't you go check on Sohee?
He's like, you're gonna leave her all alone? You should go be with her right now.
And he's like, oh fuck yeah, you're right.
And I think that's just like bro talk, they were like, go lay down next to her, man, but not with saying it.
But then he's so polite. My notes here just say Sungyeop is such a sweet guy. He just like comes in and he's like, how you doing?
Yeah, he's checking on her.
You need some snacks?
And so he's just like, are you asleep? And she's not responding. And he's like, are you asleep? I'm like, yeah, maybe.
But then she reaches out and like violently pulls him in.
She's like, stay.
Yeah.
Will you lay with me?
And so he's like, oh, okay.
I love how moments later she like grabs him and he's like,
I think we're moving too fast.
Yeah, he's like,
not that I mind, but I think, don't you think this is a little fast?
Literally.
So sweet.
Oh, and I love how he even says like, I won't do anything weird at one point whenever he's like trying to hold her or whatever. So anyways, and I wrote in my notes, I'm like, ooh, the ghost lady is not going to like this.
Yeah, well, Also, so then Taesu went up to, because Sun Hyuk
right.
went to go
Piss.
yes. And then Taesu goes to talk to Yoonjun, and
Yeah.
Yoonjun, and they start making
She
out.
was laying
And then
down,
the
and the
little
Bingo
doll's
saw.
just watching them make out.
It was creepy. It's a creepy angle.
But I was
creepy
wait,
shot.
that's my
And
whole house.
I think maybe that's when I read that. I was like, oh, they're not gonna like this, and but the doll is creepy as fuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so then after that, we have what's his name pissing, right? And that's when we see a demon bird, basically.
Yeah, I was like, Hanso follows this freaky fucking bird. It looked like it was
covered in hair,
but then it also looked almost as if it was like an ash falling down, like the sand,
the way that it was moving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It just looked like it was kind of pouring out.
And it moved
constantly.
very fast. And it's the way that it led him back to that furnace that
and
we saw
wispy.
earlier. Yeah. And it went back down into the furnace. And then we have him with the flashlight looking down deep into it. And you just see it inching further and further each time. And then he's just like, crap. And he says, oh, I should have been filming that. And then he goes back to the place where
we find out later
else.
why he's like, I'd want to film that.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it was.
I
it
didn't
was
even put
creepy
that
as fuck.
together. Yeah. And so he could.
I didn't until you just said it right now.
And so then he goes back to the station where they were watching everybody whatever, and he sees the two characters on film in the thing, or not on film, but live as they're laying there kissing and smooching.
He's just watching them and he's like, shit.
Yeah. And then I guess at a certain point he ends up falling asleep, right? Or
yeah.
No, not
at
necessarily.
This point,
My bad.
At this point we
because I'm
click
still
back to Sohee.
Yes, because she's freaking
Click
out.
back.
And then and that's wwhenever does she have the interaction with the ghost that puts, and which is the shaman, right?
Yes, and this is where we get the going too fast, and because she's qufreaking out and quite literally clinging to Song-yeop, and is gosh, she looks terrified.
She's literally, I'm at this point, can they take her to a hospital because she's
I know, I'm
sick or something's wrong with her.
She's clearly not okay.
Yeah.
But as she's sitting there, she keeps repeating something about she's here, outside the door.
At the door, yeah.
And then this creepy ass hand just comes. You're getting a pan in at her face, and then this hand just comes from around her head and covers her mouth, and it's oh no.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Hank. You might remember me from a show called King of the Hill. Check out a King of the Hill rewatch podcast. These boys ain't rap, but they are funny. Find the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts or at roguemedianetwork.com. I tell you what.
Yeah, so basically that creepy ass hand comes from around it, and we find out again later, we don't quite know still that it is her grandma. And the grandma's basically being like, yo, shut the fuck up. That thing is right outside the door, bitch. And then,
Yeah, basically. And so we have her heeding that warning to her, and then we have it panning back to Yoonjun.
We see that she has reached 0.0 megahertz.
Yep, off on the screen.
And Han Seok is awake. He was watching it.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, they had both fallen asleep. Taesu and
Yoon
had fallen
asleep, and she reached her REM sleep 0.0 megahertz because oh boy douchebag is watching it on the machine, because at that point we don't necessarily know that I actually don't know at this point if he was asleep or not. I don't know if he just blacked out after he saw what happened, because obviously she did walk away.
Yes. So I think he actually encountered her there, and then it's like a shock thing that kind of put him there, or I feel like spirits a lot of the times can manipulate situations.
It's like put him to bed.
Exactly. Well, and as we find out, this one quite literally can manipulate situations.
Yeah.
And
it's true.
Appears different things and stuff like that. And so and make you think you're doing one thing and then end up doing another.
Something else. Yeah.
Exactly. And so I feel like it I feel like he did encounter her
Yeah.
there.
And so we have Yoon basically walking up, and he's walking up to her, and he's looking at her eyes, and she's
And
all
they're clouded white, like
like a demon.
like Atlantics.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they are.
Mhm.
And so then basically he wakes up in a sense from a dream that we were like, oh, I didn't realize. You don't really know if it's a nightmare or not, but I don't think it was. Anyways, and so that's whenever they can't find Yoon because he wakes up Taeso, and he's like,
Where the hell
where
is
is
she?
she?
And at this point, the dolly is hanging only by its head now.
Yeah.
Its body had separated.
Yeah, which
We
is
don't
like
get
what
to
happened to the
see
lady.
that yet, but yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. And we don't get to like see how it rips
Happened?
yet,
Yeah.
but we
we do
see
later.
that it has happened.
Mhm.
And yes, so then they're searching, they can't find Yoonjung, and then they finally do find her in the sort of kitchen area, I
Mhm.
suppose, as to where they are. And I mean, at this point, she's clearly not faking. Her body's contorting in the weirdest ways,
Yeah.
and the little like
The noises she's making, yes, and she's literally moving like a human should not move or be able
Yes.
to. Yeah,
Every
poor
little
body.
movement
She's really
is
going through it.
unnatural for sure.
Mhm. Yeah, and it's the way that she then gets like yeeted and gets sucked into
That little
basically
furnace
all the way
hole.
into that furnace hole. And I'm like, how even? But yeah, she's getting sucked into the furnace. But they grab her by the feet and they're trying to pull. They successfully keep her from getting pulled under, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, she's like fucked up.
You're getting points of her
Yeah,
saying like, "Help me!" She's coming through, and then as they pull her back out, they see the first time that she then is being pulled in by hair. It's
Oh,
the
yeah,
hair
that's right.
ghost because it like wraps around her face,
And
and
that's
then
how it's yanking her.
this is when you get the kind of red eyes, basically,
Mhm.
and then it actually successfully does yank her in.
Yeah.
It
yeah.
takes her at that point, and
Oh my God, you're right.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
I'm
takes her.
thinking, yeah, that's right, because it takes her, and then that's whenever they hear her on the radio,
Mhm.
and they're like, whatever the douchebag is like, we should just leave because only the dead can communicate on the
Yeah.
radio. And at that point, I thought, oh, he's right. Oh, she is dead. But anyways, then we find out after they go and get Sohee and
Songyeok.
Sonyeok. They go and get them, and they're like, we gotta go. And they put like they're like trying to, basically Taeso's gonna go try to find Yoon.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna go put Sohee in the car, and then douchebag is gonna go get all the equipment and take it back to the car.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we have all that happening essentially, and we're seeing that happen, and then
Basically,
Taeso,
they realize like they've seen exactly what the music students have seen too.
oh yeah, that hair ghost.
And and at this point, Han Seok also sees the beheaded doll, and then that's when they hear. And when Yoon Jung's voice comes across, it says, "Take me with you. You're all dead."
Yeah, and it's like
basically-
laughing maniacally.
Yeah, and then that's when he says, the only dead's voice comes through. But and even at this point, like Taesu was like on board for leaving already, but
Yeah.
he was like, "Of course we're gonna get Yoon Jung out," because at first like Han Seok kind of reacts like rather violently, like, "What do you mean? Like, what about Yoon Jung?" And then he's like, "Obviously we're gonna get her, but we need to get the fuck out of here, and I need you to pack up the shit too," which I thought was, good for whenever we find out that Han Seok has feelings for her.
Yeah, yeah.
As that was kind of coming through from the beginning too. There are little
Mhm.
things, little like sideways glances, and then
Yeah.
obviously when he was watching him make out, which is also just weird.
Very creepy.
Yeah. And so at this point, then we go back and we're with Yoon Jung. Wait, that's not the right Yoon Jung, and we're under the ground with her.
She's underneath the floorboards, basically,
Mhm.
wherever this like furnace hole had took her to, and so then
And
there's
it's like stone floors.
yeah, and so then we have Taeso and the way you can hear it, it's okay.
Sorry, I was
Then we
like,
have
oh no.
Taeso and so he's little
Yes,
cutie
Sonyeok.
pie trying to break the floor to get to her.
With massive boulders.
Yeah, basically. And then they finally get to like a certain point where they break through a little bit, and then they're able to pull the stones apart, and they do see her down there. And at that point, like the ghost had already like wrapped a hair like all around her.
All around her, and you see it go into her ear, which
Yeah.
I feel like is a very
How-
clear indication that it's still
Inside
inside
of
of her body.
And so they find her. They're able to
But of
pull
course
her
they
out.
don't see
They
that.
don't
We
see
see
it.
that.
And they're able to pull her out. And then they start running to the vehicle. And that's whenever they're all there. And then Sohee is yelling at douchebag if he burned the doll.
Did you burn the doll?
And it's the way they're all kind of like, why would, like, nobody's really kind of like knowing why she's saying this, but then they have to be like, wait, did you? And he's like, no, I didn't. So then that's whenever Tayso was like, you started this, go finish it. And so he goes back. And
which I'd be the same way.
Yeah, and he's about to burn it, but then he's like, why do I have to do this? And he just like
throws it
drops
into, like,
a well or something,
Yeah.
a pit, and it doesn't burn it. And then he comes back and tells them that he did when they're like, did you? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, totally did.
And so we
taken
know
care
that
of.
that's going to come back into play later. So we have them back at a hospital in the city. And they're all surrounded around Yoon, and she's still unconscious, but they then start talking about how she's stable and she should be okay. She'll probably wake up sometime soon. And then that's whenever Tayso is telling the rest of the gang, like, y'all should go back to the hotel because, you know, yada yada, we haven't slept, we haven't ate, whatever, go back, I'll watch her.
Yeah, and every shot we're getting of Sohee during this, she looks still very clearly fucked up, and like she keeps like,
and she's just looking at Yoon because I think
from
she
afar
knows.
she knows. Yeah, she's like,
Something wrong
she's
with
not
her.
okay.
And-
Something is not right with her.
Yeah.
But yes, and then they go back, and we get the what Han Seok's like, y'all sharing a room here too, kind of thing.
Yeah,
just
he
fucking
makes a
with
little
them.
joke. Yeah, I
And-
put dude as a prick.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then we have them all going to their rooms, and we have douchebag rewatching the footage of what they caught. And the way he's acting, I guess the actor really played it well, because like he even is like taking a sip of his drink and like spills it on himself. He's just like giving this total like ill vibe.
Yeah,
like, just, it's giving
like
me the
that's the
heebie-jeebies.
reason I don't like you over Taesu.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because you're
Just
gross.
gross.
And yes, I think he was a little intoxicated too at this point, and
Probably.
the way he's just like acting very
Weird watching the footage.
calling Soon Young a bitch, saying that she deserves it, laughing at the film,
She's
just
a
like
little slut or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
he keeps laughing at everything.
He's slut shaming her.
He is.
She's not even being a slut.
She's
She was
not.
with her boyfriend.
She's with her boyfriend. Yeah.
But we find out later why he's being so salty. Sorry. And so yeah, we have him then calling I guess a producer or someone who he was talking to before he left, which was, we find out the whole reason he went was to catch something on film, and he's telling him like, I'm going to send you this footage and I want you to make me a better deal with more money. And after you see this little teaser I'm going to send you, because
Because it's good.
Yeah.
He's like, what I
He's like,
found
I don't
is
make bad
actually
deals.
scary. So you're going to want to pay more for this. Yeah. I don't make bad deals.
And so then we quickly go to like a nightmare scene.
Yeah, with Song Yeop, and he's having a real bad nightmare.
Getting choked.
And we see the little dead boy, basically from it. So the kid who was at the counter at the coffee shop
It's here again.
is here again, and we find that he's.
That's when I'm like, oh, that was a ghost. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when it clicked too, and I was like, so that was the first time we realized she could see ghosts, and also why his fucking smile was so creepy is what I put, because his smile at the beginning was so creepy.
Yeah.
I hated it. I was like, ugh. But yes, we're basically Song Yeop's being choked by this little bloody dead boy. Now, he wasn't covered in blood at first, otherwise that would have been a clear indication.
Yeah.
This time now, though, we do see that he's had
He's all
some sort of
bloodied up.
major head trauma to him.
He's fucked up. And so, yeah, we have that happening. And then finally he wakes up out of it. And then we realize, oh, okay, that was just like some sort of nightmare vision happening. And then we have a scene going back to the hospital, right? Whenever we go back to Yoon being watched by Taeso. And then what's his face comes
Han
in, the
Seok is
douchebag.
like,
He's like, hey, you haven't
"Go get some
eaten. Go
food."
get some food. I'm going to stay and watch her. And immediately I was like, nah, this is bad. But anyways, I didn't realize where it was going to go. But he literally starts telling her and professing his love, and like
He's being a fucking creep.
and like literally gets on
Ugh.
top of her in
Yeah, and he's like
the bed
kissing her
as she's
neck and stuff.
unconscious, kissing all over her, kissing her mouth. And like I'm like, oh, this is gross, because
Yeah.
he's literally making out with someone who's unconscious. But then her eyes open up
Yep, and she not.
and she's not, and then her eyes turn into the clouded whiteness, and then you're like, oh, demon time.
Yep, and he's at this point is what we kind of mentioned earlier. He's like basically saying, what does Taeso have that I don't? Anyways, yeah.
And so she's
What
like
does he
telling
have
her
that I
like,
don't?
yeah, and he's being really
It's
salty,
like,
and
and
then
I just put you. He's got everything that you don't.
and then she wakes up, and then basically the ghost is acting through her and kills him. Starts wrapping the hair around his face when he's kissing her. Sorry, she wasn't kissing him.
And then I
And-
guess I'm assuming either
Somehow just
at least got in his head, and then he went home, and then did what he did.
Went to the hotel.
Yeah, to the hotel, not home.
But I guess so. I don't know.
Because his body was found at the hotel
And not there
while
at the
they're
hospital.
at the hospital. But it's very clear that there is some sort of struggle happening between them, or
'Cause
she
you
like
only get a
somehow
shot of, like, his
magically
little
got him
feet.
back.
Their feet like flopping around. Yeah.
Like
But,
clearly there's
because
a
after
struggle.
that, then we have a phone call to Sohee. Oh, because after that, then we have this little cute moment where Sang-yeop is trying to like decide or try to get Sohee out of her room because he wants to go get lunch with her, and he's like, obviously you see the phone, he's like sent her so many messages, she hasn't replied, but she finally opens the door.
I think and too he was like trying to build a message, and then he was like, that message isn't good enough, what am I thinking? And then is like standing at the door about to knock, and then keeps like and he's like pacing, and then when he finally gets the confidence to do it,
she opens the door
into him.
And so then
and she's like, what, let's go eat.
And so they finally go eat, and they get a call there after they have a little talk a little bit about stuff,
and he mentions that he had a nightmare about someone strangling him,
and she's like, oh, what boy. And so he doesn't really go into it or anything, and they get a phone call from Tae-soo that Yoon had woken up, and she's conscious, and so then they go back to
she's just acting like nothing happened,
and they go to the hospital. They're talking to her, and she's just like, I want to get drunk, let's go have a good time,
and they're like,
then
you're literally in the hospital.
But she convinces him after, even at this point, so he's like looking at her weird, and June's like, are you upset to see me alive? And she's like, no, I'm happy. I was just concerned because obviously you just went through a lot, basically. And so then we have them all coming back from a night out essentially, and she was drunk, and Tae-soo and Yoon are going back to their room, and then we have the other two leaving and separating as well. And then at a certain point,
we notice Sohee has marks on her arm as she's brushing her teeth.
She does,
which also reminded me of the ring a little bit. Whenever towards the end,
it's like latched.
Where because it looked like a hand, like it had grabbed and kind of bruised her arm / something. We don't really know what happened, but and then Sun Young are
in the bed, and they're talking after he comes out of the shower because he's like, you can't be asleep. Oh, because
they were about to do it.
And then we have what's his face coming from the store, or he went to the store.
So he is also at this point, a lot of stuff starts happening at once. You're getting a lot of flashes of things that are happening at the same time. So basically, like Tae-soo and Yoon Jung are about to do it, and even though like they're possessed, I don't think we've gotten back to them being like in the room yet, but then Sohee, we did actually. Sohee is investigating. She's gone into Han Seok's room because they can't get a hold of him at this point, and she's like going through his files and seeing different things. And this is where I think we see the dolly, like
she sees the dolly in
that's
the film.
later. JK,
no,
sorry. I see my note like 5 down where that happens. And
then
we
see all of this stuff happening with
Sang-yeop's called to Yoon Jung's room, and he goes, and then this is where we like get this pan in of her where her eyes we finally get to see that they're hella creepy, and her mouth is expanding, kind of like taking him Deborah Logan style, like that snake
it's unhinging
mouth, like unnaturally big. And then Tae-soo had already, he was like, bye. Something clearly, he was shaken.
He yeeted, because that's whenever we have Han Seok coming back from the store, and he watches him get into the van.
Oh, sorry, Sang-yeop.
He's watching him get into the van.
Yes,
watches Tae-soo get out of there. Yeah, and so I'm just like, where the fuck is he going? And so
because he's driving hella recklessly too.
We have him driving on the road. But anyways, we have him going. We have the nice cutesy boyfriend going up to the room. And he then sees that she's on the other side of the room, right? But then he gets confronted by the little boy. Because he had already gone up there at this point. It like flashes back to him going up there after he ran into Tae-soo. And then so we see her mouth expanding. Then it goes back to Tae-soo driving recklessly. And that's when we like actually see where he's gone. Yeah. And then that's where we get Tae-soo's death. Because he's lost his mind clearly, and then we have him getting into essentially car accident. Because we have a little ghost pop on the screen.
Yeah, which is a little chilly,
after he had been, you see him kind of a monologue of him kind of losing his mind and talking about how it wasn't his fault and all this stuff. Anyways, we know he's dead because we have a ghost and then a crash and then we have a scream.
Yeah,
and then
it flashes back and now we don't see Yoon Jung there anymore. We see the little boy,
and he's talking to
So the little boy was, whenever this accident must have happened,
he was still alive.
Yes. And he was referring to the little boy as his Hyung.
Mm-hmm.
So this must have been his older brother.
Yeah. Well, yes. I know that because then the little boy calls him little brother in a little bit. Yeah.
And so that was the first notification that it was like, okay, so this is someone from his past that he clearly referring to them as if he knows them. And the little boy basically asks if he wants to play like the old times. And then
that's when we have homegirl checking out what's his name's room.
Yeah, and this is where we find the doll beheading. And I put this is where I put the music as we watch the doll get beheaded. Is a little funny. It's just kind of like
comedic.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the doll like getting beheaded was very unsettling.
Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing it.
It's creepy.
Basically,
and also I was wondering
around.
like if they didn't hear or notice anything, like a little, flicking. I'm like, you hear things in the room moving. I don't know, but yeah, unless they were already asleep. But I thought they were still making out at that point.
Yeah. I don't remember what was happening.
But anyways, we have all that happening, and she's like kind of getting weirded out looking at all this footage, obviously, and then we have it going back to Song-yeop getting tricked to hang himself, and at the right time, so he just comes in as he's like kicking, and he kicked the chair already.
Yeah, because the little boy had told him on the count of 3 to kick the chair away.
Yeah.
And so he counts him down.
And so that's whenever we also realize that the spirit can like kind of possess people to like kill themselves basically. And so he falls down after she's able to get him down, and he's basically saying that he doesn't remember any of it.
Yeah.
And he's shocked that because then she starts telling him that Yoon is possessed, and I'm like, the way he kind of acted was like shocked, like no, like what? And I'm like, after all this, you're gonna say you was shocked, like what?
Like I think I would just start believing the facts as they were told to me. I'd be like, something's flying through the air right now.
Makes sense to me.
Sure, great. Yeah. The sky is purple.
And at that point, we have them trying to locate the douche face, and at that point simultaneously we have someone in the hotel hearing the phone ring, and it's douche face in the pool because they're trying to call him, and he's dead obviously, and then they go come running in
like a closed pool too, so I'm
it
sure
looked like it was under construction or something.
There was a bunch of tarps. The man walking in looked like he wasn't he was like not prepared to see anyone in there. And of course he heard the phone ringing, so he's probably like
who
what the fuck? What's going on? But he clearly was
is in here,
not expecting a bloody dead corpse
and so
floating face down in the pool.
Them coming down to like look at it. They obviously see him once they flip around, and they're like, oh fuck. And so then we have both
it flashes to a morgue or hospital setting,
where Taeso is dead and douchebag is dead on the table, and we have Yoon crying because her love is dead,
and she thinks it's her fault, and like she keeps saying like it's my fault.
I was like Yoon is crying, I guess she ain't possessed right now.
But it's not her fault. The ghost enticed them to do it, and unfortunately she is just the
and that's
vessel.
What So he tells her basically. And then
But she also tells her, you can try to escape, but it's no use.
Yeah, because we get an unraveling of why she knows so much and is so like well informed on all the shit, and because she reveals that her mom was a shaman,
and so was her
she
grandmother.
comes from a long line of shamans.
And so he basically says the only way to take care of this is we have to go back to the house.
So obviously what we doing, we're going back to the house. And so we finally get back to the house, and she tells them to go ahead of her, and she gives her mom a little farewell call, basically is what it is. And her mom basically already knew what she's like, because her intuition is like, grandma came to in a dream and told me you're in trouble, you're in danger, like what's going on.
And even as we got Sohee leaving her house for this trip in the beginning, her mother was hesitant.
Go doing something.
And then exactly that's what she did. We also see that like she was bullied or teased for being able to see ghosts. So that's why she wasn't speaking up about this.
Yeah.
Because her whole childhood she was ridiculed for being
like a cloud
this
of it.
Sort of different kind of girl that could see another
Yeah, I wrote right here
Things that weren't
when
there.
the mom mentioned the grandma. It's like, oh, that lady must have been her grandma, the old lady from the woods.
I put her granny is the one she's been seeing.
And so, yeah, I'm like, oh, Stranger Things music is playing because there's like a whole little 80s synth vibe happening.
It was very
when they're
much
getting
so.
ready to contact the spirit again, essentially. Because then we have like little earthquakes happening as homegirl is doing her shaman stuff, and then we have
She asked Granny. She said, "You'll help me, right?"
yeah. I was like, oh, ghost shaman lady is going in on it too.
Mm-hmm. And then she puts her own blood into the dolly.
Yeah.
Bath this time, which is like, oh, what? So that's some intense, like next level shit. I guess because maybe they didn't have the cow liver, so she's like offering up herself.
Or maybe it's a whole different process for what she's trying to do.
Yeah, she's trying to basically channel her grandmother, and
maybe that is what it is. Like her line, her lineage is coming through her blood, and so then we have them reaching 0.0 megahertz again, right? We have what's her face.
Yeah, and she at this point had told Song-yeop, no matter what happens, you cannot come in here.
Yeah.
Which
obviously he's
gonna come in, but when you tell someone not to do, and he breaks like basically the number one rule.
And then we have the scene where she starts whistling, right? She starts whistling. I'm like, is she?
We also, this is where we got our last minute confession from him, basically saying that he joined the club because of her, and he's basically saying like,
I love you.
Yeah. And we get like a shot of him like pleading for their safety, like saying, please, please, please don't let them get hurt. Don't let them get hurt. And yes, I did put some sort of weird whistling. I was like, what is happening?
She's whistling. And essentially I'm like, are we calling the spirit? The
ghost
I put
like a calling
dog?
the ghost out. Basically like,
because she's whistling. Yeah. And
there's also a fuck ton of moths.
And and so all this weird shit starts happening while she's trying to call out the spirit. And then basically
my car got filled with moths as I was leaving my brother in Marble Falls. It was just like randomly. It was very unsettling because Marble Falls, if any of you have been out there, there's like nothing. There's nothing. It's West Texas. And so it's like country, like, yeah. And so I was driving and it was pitch black and my phone was not loading, like my GPS and stuff. No, and so, I had no service. I couldn't figure out where I was going because I'd only, at this point, my brother had only lived there a little bit and I'd only visited him a few times. And especially at night, I didn't know my way out. And then all of a sudden, my car was filled with it was like I had been in my car for about at least 5 minutes at this point, 5 to 10 minutes. And then all of a sudden, there was at least like 15 to 20 moths in my car just flying around.
But so then the windows were rolled down or up? Or
they were
how
up.
Did they get in?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, that's some supernatural
exactly.
shit.
I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I need you to look up if moths are a bad omen. And she was like, are they white or black? And I was like, I can't fucking tell. It's dark.
Oh my God, that's scary.
I don't know. So when I saw the moths happening, I was like, oh, shit's about to go down. Because then right after that too, like my call dropped with my mom and I was like in this car with moths and my GPS was not loading and I was like, this is it.
That's how I
die. This is how I fucking die.
How I go.
This is it. Anyways, sorry.
I love that. No, that's totally fine. Good little more story right there. And so we have all this shit going on, and finally, basically we have the spirit talking through Yoon, and is kind of laughing at Sohee, and then I love how then Sohee is like, "Come out, bitch!"
Yeah, come out, bitch. You know me.
Literally, it's like talking shit. Is talking shit to her.
Calls her bitch like multiple
times and is whacking her. Then starts to whack her with like this leaf, like branch looking thing. Literally whipping her and trying to whip the spirit out of her.
At this point, she'd already kind of started burning the doll here too. Because at this point, she's like yelling at the spirit and it hasn't come out.
Yeah, that's right.
And so she starts burning the doll here basically to force the spirit out because then it's like obviously in pain.
Yeah, and then finally the spirit does come out, right? And that's whenever she starts talking to her, she's trying to and I'm like, how is she really trying to convince this ghost to leave the body? She's like, come
it's
out.
Time to go. You've killed enough.
This is it, honey. This baby, you got to go.
And she's like, no, I'm having fun in this body.
Literally.
Why would I get out?
Literally. I'm like, this is not convincing at all. If I were a ghost, you know what? I wouldn't leave either.
Yeah, I'd be like,
leave a perfectly good alive body? Nah. And then I'm sorry, this is when she starts whipping her to try to get the spirit out, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like LMAO because it's so funny, and I'm like thinking like, damn, poor Yoon who has to like go through all this because it's her body.
Exactly. Oh, and then at this point the ghost says that she will kill all of them, all of the men.
Yeah.
Basically, she's like something. Fuck men.
Yeah, because she says, I hate all the men in the village or this town or whatever.
I wonder if that school student was her. And if it was haunting that convenience store clerk,
Oh, maybe.
then the blood down her leg, it looked like it was like vaginal blood.
Yeah, maybe
What if there was like
some
sort of miscarriage
or just some sort
or
of
if he
trauma. Yeah,
did something bad?
Caitlin always goes to rape.
Yeah, I do.
Just
I'm gonna call rape
prior
everything.
information. It was rape. Yeah,
But I don't
it
know.
could have been.
Yeah.
It could have been, honestly, because that does. Why else would we have seen that
girl
connection
with
from
what
the
does that girl
beginning?
have?
Oh, you know what? That's
So
interesting.
maybe. I
That's
don't
interesting
know.
because all the ghosts we've seen have been connected to the people or some part of the story.
Mhm.
It's not like random ghosts were put in just to give the effect of like, oh, this lady can see ghosts. No,
Yeah.
they're tied to the story. So that's a good
Maybe
observation.
maybe that's maybe that's
what
why
the
she's
director
so
subtly kind of implied or left there, and why she hated the men so much. Maybe she
yeah.
was like used and abused a lot,
Mhm.
and that's why she finally then committed suicide
Yeah.
and hung herself. And then by that point, it's like,
She's
well,
such a
now I'm
vengeful
gonna
fucking
kill
spirit.
everybody.
Yeah.
Well, men at least.
And
And then
that's-
if women come and like, get in my way, well, I'm gonna kill you too. But
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll at
Mhm.
least utilize you.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. But yeah,
And
the
all
way she's living
shamans
her-
are definitely gonna get killed.
Yeah, because you're trying to get me to not do what I want to do.
Yeah.
Just
so
kill
I'm gonna
all the
kill you.
men.
Yeah.
So you're in my way.
And that's
you get
even how
killed too.
Sohi, even at the beginning when she was talking, or when she was talking to Ram, she was like, "I know my fate. Like I've
Yeah.
sealed my fate. Like
Mhm.
so, yeah.
Which
So
is so sad. Could you imagine your child
so
calling you and
sorry.
telling you that?
So sorry, you gotta
Oof.
go. Yeah, that's horrible. And so we have all that shit happening, and then finally we have what's her face, like
Yoon
you turning her head like the fucking Exorcist,
and floats upwards and
floats up, does all this shit, and the hysterical laugh that she does kind of maniacally throughout this is just like, it was beyond. It was very dramatic.
it was.
But it added.
I liked it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it added to it. It
I
gave
didn't think
very,
it was
like
kitschy.
crazy woman like
Yeah.
like laugh. And
Unhinged.
so then we have what's his name coming back into the room, obviously when he wasn't supposed to, and then Yoon, or the spirit necessarily,
because
then
the
puts the image in his head.
the camera had fallen too.
That's right. Yeah.
And so like
He
nothing
couldn't see what was going on.
more could be recorded. Yeah. And then we see a like string of Yoon Jung vomiting up some black shit, basically like it coming out of her body, and then it goes dark, and then the whole room goes dark.
Yeah.
It goes pitch black, and that's when Sohee like is scrambling to find the flashlight,
The flashlight, and then
and
we
that's
have,
when the exorcist shit happens with the
Yeah.
complete head turn, and then basically Song Yeop is being lured in with the sounds of his Hyung's death, is what I put. He can hear. He hears
little
his
brother
little
getting hurt,
or
or
big
from-
brother.
big brother, sorry, from the accident.
He hears that from outside, so obviously it entices him to come in, which is what obviously the whole point was.
Yeah.
And the spirit we find is manipulating the situation once again.
Yeah.
By
To get
luring
him to
in.
go in, and then gets him to attack Sohee, because it makes it seem like she is trying to kill his big brother in little boy form. And so then he obviously starts then attacking her and tries to kill her, and is like, die, you bitch.
Yeah.
And she's like obviously trying to plead for her life, like, it's me, don't kill me. And then finally he doesn't. And then we have
Yoon Jung
him,
basically giving birth through her fucking mouth with her
yeah,
head.
with the ghost coming out.
Yeah,
And then we
you
have
see the like head of hair come out. It
yeah.
was
And then we have them turning around, and it finally pans, and we have a ghost reveal. And it's a pretty bad CGI ghost, I'm not gonna lie, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the worst. And
I did
just-
like when it panned in closer on the eyes, and then the eye was like kind of wonky
and
yeah.
bloodshot. Yeah.
Yeah, I was a fan of that, because I imagine, if you've hung, like if you've been hanging
Yeah.
for a while, and the blood circulation cut off too, I imagine your eyes there was some sort of pressure that probably fucked up her eye in that decomposition process and stuff too. So
Probably. And
I
then
don't know.
we have poor boy then getting yeeted.
I put LOL at the face, but also like that shit is kind of scary.
Yeah.
Like if I saw it in real life, I'd be like, no,
it'd be scary. I
fuck-
wouldn't be laughing
fuck
at
that.
it. I wouldn't be like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah.
Right now. And so then we have him getting taken by the spirit
Yeah, so
into the hole again, like
Furnace
everyone else,
hole.
the furnace hole. And I'm like, "Oh, he gone." But then it shows him having a lighter, and he has a little piece of the doll left.
Because so he's yelling, burn the doll, and as he's struggling, he thankfully grabs like the doll's head
a
or
little
something.
piece of it, some piece of it, and then gets right before he gets pulled down there, and then he lights it, and it's the way that he lights it, but then like it
The
like,
whole because at
engulfs.
this point the hair had been like entangling him, and then it just
He
engulfs him in flames
because it's killing the spirit essentially, but he's like obviously wrapped with her around him, and then I'm like, oh man, he's a crispy crisp. I'm like, man, damn, I thought he was gonna make it, but then
he gets out.
we found out that he is alive.
So
I'm
you're
like, is
like-
he alive or isn't he? Because then I'm like, wait, is he a ghost? Because she can see ghosts, but then he is alive. Essentially, he's
Yes.
alive. Yeah.
And we're back at the cafe from the beginning now.
And it's and I put it again. What is this music that they have playing? It's like very like the Wii store music. Like that's what it was. It's very like you know, literally like that. It was like free YouTube music that they put in the background is what they had. But anyways, they have this little dialogue between the two of them. He's writing something and then he's like telling her how he has to meet with someone, a publisher, because he's going to publish the book after. She's like, wait, are you cheating on me? And
yeah,
he's
so like I guess together they are, or now they are together.
Yeah.
And yeah, because she was like, wait for me to get off my shift and we can
Mm-hmm.
go. And because Yoon Jung had called both of them.
Oh, yeah. That's
And
right.
I wonder if rather he had like called
Her.
if he's trying to get them to meet kind
Yeah.
of thing. I don't know though. But yeah. He says he's meeting someone, and at that time the publisher calls.
Yeah.
And so he takes the
The
call.
call outside, and she is like, I'm going to read this book. And so she goes through his files, and I'm like, oh, she's going to find the secret porn stash.
Mm-hmm.
But no, she finds videos of him basically whenever he was down there in the tunnel, in the what is it?
The furnace hole.
The furnace hole. And basically, it was just video footage of like the ghost girl going inside him.
Yeah,
the
so
hair.
we basically find out that Song Yeop is possessed.
Yeah.
And then it ends with she like kind of nervously clicks out, and then we could just get a shot of Song
the
Yeop's hand.
over the shoulder, and then a close up of her eyes.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, and then it ends.
And then it ends.
Yeah.
So it leaves you with a little bit of a hanger, being like, oh, what
yeah.
the hell's going on? Like cliffhanger, not a hanger.
Definitely left it open up to like a sequel or something.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I mean, and honestly, if it ended there, like, and no sequel happened, I'm perfectly fine with that
That's
too.
a fine story. Yeah.
I like that ending too, because then I do enjoy being left a little bit in the dark. And so ones that don't have a full solid resolution like that, it's like, okay, yeah, fuck, what did happen? This bitch about to die. He about to kill all of them.
Never know.
This
You don't
bitch
really
still
get a
out in the
full
real world.
Explanation.
Mm-hmm.
I would give it a solid 3.7, 3.8.
3.8,
I'll give it a 3.7.
3.7.
Yeah.
Okay.
3.7 because of music.
Because of the music.
That's it.
That's fair. Yeah, the music, I agree, was distracting at a
There
lot
was
of the
just
points.
choices made that
Yeah.
I didn't agree with. But that's off on my preference.
Maybe
So,
they're trying to keep it more in line with the fact that these are young people, or what, but I don't know.
yeah.
And yeah, so I have no clue why they made that choice. But but peace.
What would
Sorry.
you say? What would you say?
I think I would give this one a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel that.
I did really enjoy
You did
it
mention it.
the first time I watched it, and I was
Mhm.
like, this is
It's
pretty
not.
good.
It's not a bad movie. It's not like
It's not
it's
like
not- it's
blowing
not-
me out of the water.
Yeah, but also
But
I
I
would
would
say
watch
like
it
it's-
again.
Yeah, I feel like I would recommend it.
Yeah.
Because it's got a good storyline. It was pretty. It wasn't that long. It was only like an hour and 40 minutes, which
Yeah.
is a little over my like 1:30 that I
That
like to
sweet
be
spot.
at. Right, but
Hour
that's not that
27.
bad. Hour 27, but it's good. It was good. I liked it. I enjoyed it. It had a good story. I feel like it wasn't too unfamiliar, but not too familiar. It was kind of right on the spot. It was like, oh, okay, I didn't expect it to go there, and then
Yeah,
like,
it did have some
and like I didn't expect,
unexpected.
and then I didn't expect it to like I didn't expect it to go into REM sleep, and then I didn't expect it for them to leave the house so soon like that. I thought like a main part of this, which we do get back to it later, but like I didn't expect for
You
them
thought
to
it was
leave.
gonna-
Yeah,
they would stay there. It
and
would
everything
more
would
take
happen there. I
place.
liked how we left it, and then we went to the hospital, and then
And
we
it
had
followed.
here, and there was a hotel, and like I like how it gave me layers into it, and then we ended up back to the beginning, and then I thought it was good.
I agree.
I thought, and then I thought the climax too of the getting the reveal of the witch at the end. I thought that was great too, even though I wasn't so sold on how it was revealed or her look. I like how we did get like it was kind of like it was a good what's like closure resolution. I don't know, climax that we then finally got to see her after like this whole time. It's like, ooh, she's scary. Who is she? What is
very
she?
elusive, and then you do get to see
The big bad.
her face. And I would say the shot of, again, probably this has to play into my fear of pregnancy, but like of the ghost coming out of Soon Jung's mouth is like,
Yeah.
because typically babies come out head first, and so you see the like head of hair, the crowning, and so that's basically what you got out of Soon Jung's mouth, and it's like, no,
I can see all that. It's hitting all the spots.
Yeah.
For you.
But anyways, that is 2019 Shudder original 0.0
megahertz.
That's right. And if you forgot, even though we've said it quite a few times, we are doing a month of Shudder, and we have said that we are going to start telling you what films we're doing at the end of the episode. So what's the next film that you picked out for us?
See me more. See me. Hold on. I'm sorry. I wasn't ready. Hold on. But
Mi fa so.
But if you keep talking about
okay.
Shudder, because we love Shudder
we do love
so
Shudder.
much.
They have this film. They've had last week's film. They all have this upcoming week's film as well. And along with so many other, and like I've mentioned, their collection of foreign horror films, foreign to us in America, but to other people, this is just like, oh yeah, good. I've got a nice selection of my own.
See for me.
Okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Called See for me.
So yeah, if you want to watch that on Shudder with us as well, please do so for next week. So that way you can join in on the conversation. And if you have something to say, like you want to let us know your boo rating for 0.0 megahertz or even See for me, right?
See for me.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Before we record it next week, please do so.
Let us know. You can join in on the fun.
That's right. But as always, we are in the absolutely lovely Rogue Media Network studios.
Mm-hmm.
They take great care of us, and you can listen to our podcast, all the other wonderful podcasts that are on Rogue Media Network on a slew of platforms, biggest being
Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts.
That's right. And of course at
roguemedianetwork.com.
That's right. And wherever you do listen, please don't forget to
rate, review, subscribe, like, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell everybody in town.
That's right. Word of mouth, yell out your window, write it on your cars. Tell everyone, BooBaes. They're going to be like, what the hell is that? And then they're going to love it. Hopefully. And if you love it, yeah, like we said, please leave a review. And
please do.
It will help
really
us.
Need it.
Only way we can get
us
ahead.
Out there.
And if you want to let us know your boo rating, we have exactly one social media platform, and that is Instagram. And you can find us at...
That is at BooBaes Podcast on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be our only podcast and social media platform. And it is spelled BOOBAES podcast, all one word.
That's right.
Because we're your BooBaes, not your BooBabes.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
No second, third B, however many B's. Get rid of that other one. And yeah, as always, thanks for listening. And until next time.
Bye, Baes.
Bye, Baes.
Bye-bye. This has been a Rogue Media podcast. Bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hey, I'm Zach.
And I'm Mike.
And we have a fantastic new podcast to tell you about. Bros, Foes, and Heroes. It's the two of us looking into the world of comics, breaking down some characters that you may have never heard of, and some that are just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, so Zach comes up with a character each time, and I go into it just completely blind. I don't know who this person is or what their abilities are or anything, and basically I guess we kind of go over their origin story and just some of the ridiculous stuff that maybe, especially Golden Age stuff.
Oh, Golden Age stuff is always the best, and we will make sure to highlight all of the shenanigans and just absolute weirdness of everything.
Yeah, that's right. So subscribe today and follow us on Instagram at Bros, Foes, Heroes.
And if you don't, I know where you live. Not really, but please subscribe.
Bros and Foes and Heroes. Gonna tell you about bros and foes and heroes. Gonna tell you about.
Hi, I'm Hank. You might remember me from a show called King of the Hill. Check out a King of the Hill rewatch podcast. These boys ain't rap, but they are funny. Find the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts or at roguemedianetwork.com. I tell you what.